think that one of the great things about working at Valiant is, if you take a look at our first 4 launches, whether it was EXO, which is a sci-fi book, or Harbinger, which is a teen drama, or Archer and Armstrong, which was essentially a buddy comedy book, or Bloodshot, which is basically an action book, is while we operate within the superhero genre, we're not limited by it. If we have a great idea for a story, and we want to, move ahead with it because we think the high concept is great or the story is great, we don't not do it because it's not a superhero book. So it's one of the great things about working at the company right now. So I'm pretty excited for what's coming.
We tell stories about superheroes, but we don't tell superhero stories. And that means that the characters in the middle of the books are superheroes, but the genres in which they find themselves are not. Matt Kint writes Ninjak is about a superhero in an espionage book. Exomano was a sci-fi epic. Harbinger is practically a YA book with superheroes in the middle of it. And so we're able to tell a story here that is a genre that you don't often see in comic books, but you see a lot in movies and film and in television and in video games as well, and has a really interesting tone with a bang-up creative team. I mean, Warren's not kidding. Peter Milligan is a comic book mastermind, and Juan Jose Rip is doing phenomenal work here. They're both putting their whole heart into it. And it's our ability, it's for us, it's an opportunity to be able to showcase that the Valiant Universe is the world outside your window. And if we can tell a story about Exomano, we can also tell a story about Genghis Khan as, for instance, a real-life figure and the real-life occurrences that happened to him. Now, this is a half step there where we're setting it in a world that existed, and we're heightening it slightly with the supernatural undertones. But we're very excited about it, and the script is, I have to say, it gave me the same kind of chills that reading Divinity 1 gave me.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's also the evolution of our universe and our publishing platform, where we're going to be publishing new characters, new concepts, stuff like that. So we're pretty pumped up.
Yep, so we're very excited to share Britannia with you very soon. We'll be talking a lot more about this, but look for it on shelves in September. 4-issue prestige format series from Peter Milligan and Juan Jose Reap. Let's have one big round of applause for Britannia. Let the people at home know. And so coming up in October, we're going to go all the way from ancient Rome right here to New York City for a very, very big book. Perhaps our biggest, brashest, certainly probably the most violent of the fall in Bloodshot USA. Written by Jeff Lemire, art by Doug Braithwaite. This is going to be a standalone comics event, very much like what we did last year with the Valiant. Warren, you've been working with Jeff very closely on this. What can you tell us about Bloodshot USA?
Yeah, well, Jeff is, as most of you know, is an extraordinary writer. If you haven't read Essex County or with any of the Bloodshot work that he's done for us, I highly recommend it. He's really one of the great voices in our medium today. And Jeff has really done a beautiful job with Bloodshot over the past few years. He's really built Ray Garrison, who's a character who's imbued with nanites, can heal, can shapeshift, can basically is used basically as a missile by a weapons manufacturer called Project Rising Spirit. And Project Rising Spirit dispatches him on mission after mission after mission, and then they bring him back in and they basically wipe his mind. So he can die in the field, and as long as he's healed via his nanites, he's able to continue on in his missions. And what Jeff did is he really took a look at the character and really re-envisioned him essentially as a soldier who's been in the field but now has recollections of all of his battles, and he's suffering from essentially PTSD. And he's drowning his pain in drugs and alcohol. And he's really sent him on this mission where we discover how he has to rebuild his life, and he has to come to terms with the trauma that he's faced, and take control of the nanites. And in addition to that, we built a little psychotic character named Bloodsquirt who runs around taunting him, saying things like we're fighting crime with our Tech Nines, and it's pretty awesome. But he's also really done a treatise on violence and how immersed our culture is in violence. Not just the comic book medium, but, film, TV, comics. Why is it so pervasive? Our obsession with guns. And he's really tried to take a look at that, and I think he's done a masterful job with that. With Bloodshot USA, what we're going to see is basically Project Rising Spirit is going to... How spoilery do we want to get here?
Go for it, dude. They've dispersed.
They've dispersed nanites onto the streets of New York City. And people are beginning to turn into Bloodshots. Now, it's not going to be the same scope and power of Bloodshot himself, but they are going to be killing machines.
Violent, Bloodshot-looking, zombie-esque Bloodshots all over New York City.
And Ray Garrison, who is Bloodshot, and a couple of his other Bloodshot pals, including World War II Bloodshot, who you guys are going to meet in Bloodshot Island, who's this awesome Sergeant Rock kind of Bloodshot that keeps on making fun of Ray and everyone that was born after 1925 for not being tough enough. It's absolutely awesome. Cold War Bloodshot, and a couple of others, including one of my favorites, Bloodhound. Jeff has some absolute masterful dialogue between Ray and Bloodhound, such as, I knew you were smarter than all of them, boy, and then Bloodhound barks. It's kind of brilliant. So they're going to have to team up along with other members of the Valiant Universe to stop this virus from spreading, because what it's threatening to do is really consume all of New York City and all of the United States and the world after that. And what we see as Project Rising Spirit, which is run by Morris Kozel, is basically putting together a power play, not just to Project Rising Spirit in our universe is essentially war profiteers. They're a company. It's a company that makes money off of war. You know, they're in it for the money, and they're also in it for the political power. And they basically think that things have gotten a little bit soft over the last couple of years, and they want to do something to kind of not just goose profits, but to take control of things politically. And that's where our story begins. It's drawn by Dougie Braithwaite, who has done just an exceptional job for us with Armor Hunters and Unity, and he's launching Imperium for us and just a ton of other books. He's one of the finest storytellers in the entire medium, so we're pretty pumped up about this.
So as New York City, as the entire populace of New York City, I'm sorry guys, you're all going to turn into Bloodshot Zombies. As the entire populace of New York City turns into Bloodshot Zombies, there's only one person that can help us, and so Bloodshot has to basically form an invasion on American soil to get into New York City, which is quarantined at this point, and save the day from all of us who've turned into Bloodshot Zombies. It's going to be pretty big story and scope.
Yep, this is a one-man invasion of Manhattan by Bloodshot, written by Jeff Lemire, drawn by Doug Braithwaite. Probably one of the most badass high concepts that I've heard us put out there on the page in some time, so
It's
I couldn't
awesome.
be more excited for this thing. We're calling this a standalone event, kind of like what we did last year with the Valiant.
Yes.
What does that mean, and what do folks have to know about Bloodshot going into this book?
You don't have to know anything. This is a big story, and Jeff is a fantastic writer, and everything that we do, we try and build as jumping-on points. This, more so than anything that we've done in a little while, we looked at and we said, this is a great place for someone who's never read anything Valiant to jump in. It's a big, epic story. It's heartwarming. It's got action. And you don't need to know anything about Bloodshot. Everything you need to know about anything that we've ever done, you will find in the first issue of this story. So I highly recommend jumping in.
Yep.
Yeah, we really make an effort to try to build every one of our titles to be as accessible as possible, and try to make the entry points as clean as possible. And I think Bloodshot USA is going to be no different.
Awesome. So that's Bloodshot USA coming in October, the next title in the future of Valiant, written by Jeff Lemire, art by Doug Braithwaite. Anyone excited for Bloodshot USA? Come on. Now we're getting into the really good stuff. So
If you once we announce this one, guys, if you listen very carefully, I want everyone to go very quiet. If you listen very carefully, you will hear the sound of millions of Valiant fans' minds being blown.
yeah. You are also going to hear the voice of Louis LaRosa all the way from Georgia because he is so excited.
Yes.
Okay? Coming up in November, we are proud to announce here at the Valiant Summit that Valiant is doing a book called Savage. Have any of you heard us teasing Savage over the past couple months? Yeah? And we can finally tell you what this is all about. This is going to be another 4-issue prestige format limited series introducing an all-new character into the Valiant universe. Written by B. Clay Moore, making his first major debut at Valiant. Art by Clayton Henry with Louis LaRosa. So, Dinesh, what's the deal with Savage, my friend?
Savage, all right, 15 years ago, a very, very famous soccer star in the Valiant universe and his pregnant model wife are on a plane, they're going back from a home game, and they disappear. No one knows what happens to them. Their plane crashed on an island, and they couldn't be found. Assumed dead. Now, when we open Savage, we open the book, it's the present day. This is 15 years later, and we don't see them. Instead, we meet this savage monstrosity of a 15-year-old here. And if you pay close attention, you'll see that not only is he primal in every possible way, but he's got a Tyrannosaurus Rex tooth necklace. He's got 2 raptor claws that he uses as machetes, and this island seems to be populated with dinosaurs that he is hunting down. And so the opening of the book is Louis LaRosa for 6 or 8 pages just drawing the hell out of this kid, ripping into dinosaurs, taking them down. And the story we're going to tell is what happened to the football player and the model wife, and how she was pregnant. Is this the child? How did he get here? What happened to them? And is he going to be incorporated into the Valiant universe? Where is he going to go? how did he learn all these things? We're gonna tell this epic story, and we got this one in the bag, guys. This is gonna be a big one.
Yep. So Clay's tapped into something really, really cool here, which is what happens when a privileged family, about as privileged as you can be, has everything taken from them and is, practically is going to find out what it's like to lose their humanity. You've been working on this for a long time behind the scenes with B. Clay Moore. How did this project come to be, and what about it spoke to you, Warren?
Well, Clay and I and Tom Brennan have been working for a while on this book, trying to get it perfect, trying to make sure that, as we mentioned, the story's sound, and we're really excited about it before we move forward with it. And the guys are just absolutely killing it. Louis LaRose has been begging me for about 5 years at this point in time to draw dinosaurs. So if you ever wanted to see a 15 or 16-year-old absolutely annihilating dinosaurs, this is the book for you.
This man was born to draw dinosaurs.
Yes, Louis was born to draw dinosaurs. As any of you have seen from his current run on Bloodshot, just extraordinarily beautiful stuff he's doing. Louis can draw like nobody's business. One of the finest artists in the entire business. And we have some pretty awesome stuff coming up here. You can see his character designs right up here. And Louis is just really, really brilliant with character designs as well as executing the page stuff. So we're pretty stoked about it. And one of the things that we're dealing with here is the savage nature of humans, and what happens when society is stripped away and lots of dinosaurs are trying to kill you. How do you react to that? What does that turn you into? Soccer players, football players, baseball players. These are some of the most well-paid people in the entire world today. And the lives they live are essentially, lives of what would be considered minor gods thousands of years ago. I mean, they're surrounded in celebrity and opulence and wealth, and the pressure's intense. And we're really going to focus in on that kind of life as well, and what it means to him and his family when he goes missing.
And so one of the really interesting things about this book, again, unlike anything we've probably done before at Valiant, is this is a book that's not focusing on a grizzled 30-year-old. This is about a teenager, living on his own on an island. How has that informed the story that you guys are setting up to tell?
Again, for us, it's about having readers look at the book and look at the character and say, I can't believe they made this guy a superhero, and I'm not getting this kind of storytelling anywhere else. And Warren's right. This is a story. It's called Savage because it's not just about this guy who's savage and primal, but it's about the nature of being savage and the nature of being human and the human condition. And we take a look at every single character in the book, and we strip all these things away, and we find out, do they become selfish? Do they become selfless? There's my favorite moment in the entire book has nothing to do with dinosaurs. It has to do with, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, but it'll come early on, guys, so I apologize. It's just such a beautiful moment. It's to do with his mom knowing that she's terminal, and he's 5 years old, and she's been teaching him about cars and about math and about the world, hoping that they're going to escape and that he will reacclimatize to the rest of the world, but knowing that she's not going to be there very shortly. And she takes a look at him, and if you're a parent, anyone that's a parent out there will understand this. There's a comfort to, strangely, I don't have children, strangely, Warren tells me this, that if you're on a plane with your children and the whole plane goes down, you worry less than if your children aren't there, and you worry less because you worry about what's going to happen to them if you're not around to provide for them, which to someone who doesn't have children is strange. You'd want them to live, but I can kind of understand it. And the characters here go through the same thing. You've got your son that's been born on this island, and you're going to leave him, and he's 5 years old. And do you take him with you? Do you snuff him out then? Is it more human to do that? And we watch her obviously now make that choice, and then watch this character slowly reverse and become primal and all the things that she feared. But that's the story that we're going to tell, and it's one that I think you guys are going to ask yourselves a lot of questions morally about, and get a kick out when you see the dinosaurs get erupted.
Yeah, I have a 5-year-old, and half the time he thinks he's living on an island, and his 3-year-old sister is a dinosaur that he's hunting. So, makes for a unique dynamic.
So, one of the interesting things about this book as well is the format. So, we have two of fan favorite artists from Valiant, Clayton Henry and Louis LaRose, each working on distinct portions of the book. Could we just briefly talk a little bit about the format and what to expect from that?
Well, we have both Louis and Clayton, who are two of our finest artists, and two of the finest artists working in the medium on this book. And what we're going to utilize is framing sequences to understand narratively the story as it's unfolding. So we'll have more of that as we proceed. But we're going to open up with 6 to 8 pages of Louis just absolutely letting it go, just drawing what he's wanted to draw for a long time. So we're pretty excited about that. And then we'll pull back and begin to see more of the story unfold as to how we got here. So we're pretty stoked. We think it's going to be a really good book.
Yeah, this kind of parallel storytelling is something that Valiant was known for even before we got involved. The books that launched the universe in the 90s did this kind of parallel storytelling with Barry Windsor Smith, and it worked to great effect. We're doing it now in Ninjak. Some of the best books that we've done use this kind of technique. It's a very difficult technique, and kudos to all the editors and the creators for making it work. With this one, we're pulling out all the stops, so we wanted to put our biggest guns on it. We wanted to give it the prestige format look that Divinity has, and Analog Man just had, and the Valiant had. And we wanted to build as much story as we could in the way that was the most exciting, and parallel storytelling seemed to be the way to go for us.
Cool. And one final question for you guys on Savage. For the time being, this character is literally going to be on an island, isolated from the rest of the world. What are the chances that he gets into the larger Valiant universe at some point? Is that something you guys would like to see?
We'll have to wait and see, I think. Although it would be interesting to see what would happen if Auric from Exo Manowar met him. They might bond over their primitive nature. Ninjak probably wouldn't like him because he'd feel like he's lower class than him, and Ninjak's kind of an English pompous guy. It'll be interesting to see if it happens.
Cool. Savage, coming in November, B. Claymore, Clayton Henry, Louis LaRosa. We are super pumped for this one. What do you guys think? Does this look like a good book? Cool. And so, Savage is an all-new creation coming to Valiant, but that doesn't mean some of our old favorites have gone away. Anyone here reading Archer and Armstrong right now? The Adventures of Archer and Armstrong? Any Rafer Roberts fans in the house? Yeah? Let's bring up Mr. Rafer Roberts to the stage. Applause, guys. Now, Rafer, you've been working on A&A, The Adventures of Archer and Armstrong, for the past several months. Surely we couldn't have given you any bigger key Valiant franchises to take on.
I know, I'm like keys to the Cadillac right here.
What are you working on next?
The next book that I will be writing is called Harbinger Renegades.
Ooh. Round of applause, guys. Come on. And who's drawing the book?
I am absolutely floored by this. It's Derek Robertson, who's from Transmetropolitan, and I absolutely am floored and honored that he would agree to do this book. And it's up there. That's absolutely amazing.
Yep.
I know there's probably little kids watching this, but
Many little kids.
Yes, when I was told who was going to be drawing the book, I believe I said the same 2 curse words about like 8 or 9 times in a row, just absolutely stunned. I'm so happy.
For those of you who don't know, Derek Robertson is one of the geniuses of the industry. He drew Transmetropolitan, he drew Happy, he drew The Boys. We're really, really honored to have him, and he's doing some kick-ass work.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really exciting, especially seeing you two guys teamed up on these characters who I know I absolutely adore. I think every single person out there who would call themselves a Valiant fan absolutely adores the Harbinger Renegades. Mm-hmm. Who are these characters, and where does your story pick up?
Well, the first Harbinger series, written by Josh Dysart, told the story of these teenagers, most of whom had superpowers, and how they fought against one of the greatest villains in the entire Valiant universe, and how they lost spectacularly. Now it's 2 years later, we're a number of years later, and they are picking up the pieces of their lives. Chris, who we last saw go into prison from her involvement in the Renegades, is out living with her girlfriend and putting the pieces of her life together, getting a job, really trying to put the past behind her. Peter, following the defeat, has buggered off to God knows where, involved in a lot of drugs, pharmaceuticals, just really trying to get his mind right, afraid of conflict. Faith has been out there continuing to fight the good fight, as we've seen in Jodie's book, which is amazing. And Torque has pretty much joined the establishment in the way I kind of look at it, joining the reality TV show, becoming a distraction to the actual problems that are facing the world. And now, as the scar tissues from their defeat are healing, the various characters are coming back together, seeing that the world is in a bad place, partly because of their actions in the past, and trying to fix the mistakes of their past, and also to help others who cannot help themselves.
And so all great Harbinger stories have really been about what the impact of superpowers in the real world would be like. And I think in reading what you have in store for the book, you found a really interesting inroads into that in the first issue. Could you talk a little bit about what the impact of the leak of psi powers has had on the world as we know it in the Valiant universe?
Sure. There was a list of all potential psi-ots in the world that Harada, the main villain from the first series, was keeping, and now that is out, and everybody can look at it. They can find their own name, the name of their neighbors. They can learn if they are a potential psi-ot, and the actions that they can take. Are they fearful of their own abilities or potential abilities? Do they go out and try to turn their powers on? And then there's also organizations who are exploiting people like that one way or another. There's certain groups who feel that human potential has been stolen from them and are using Harada's blueprints to build activation chambers or equipment. Usually poorly, because none of these people are engineers. It would be like if you or me decided to give
DIY, man.
Yeah,
DIY.
give ourselves superpowers in our garage and
Every day.
Yeah,
Every
and
day.
usually even Harada didn't have the method down quite perfect. So there's a lot of exploding heads. It's quite disturbing. And
Exploding heads as drawn by Derek Robertson,
Yeah,
which
I
is
think
really,
that's-
if you're going to get an exploding head, the best possible way to do it.
Yeah, I can already picture that. It's going to be so awesome. But yeah, it's various groups are exploiting the leak and the fall of the Harbinger Foundation for their own nefarious purposes, and the Renegades are coming back together to help those who are victims of the new society.
Very cool. And you're bringing back the four core members of the team.
Yes.
Peter, Chris, Torque, Faith.
Yes.
But I think you're also going to be expanding a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about what you have in store for either heroes or villains that people might not have seen before?
There'll be a new member of the team with superpowers joining. I don't want to say too much about him. He's a brand new kid named Jay. He'll be a very helpful member of the team as they travel around helping people out. Then villain-wise, there's a guy called the Mind who is going to be absolutely a blast for me to write. I kind of described him as if like Dr. House got the ability to shoot laser blasts out of his hands and has like a small army of hippies who he just yells at constantly. That's where I'm going with that one. And on the human side, Chris's girlfriend Tamara, who is basically her rock, the emotional support that Chris needed coming out of prison and trying to rebuild her life. So I'm really excited about that relationship and seeing how two humans can have a relationship in a world where they're surrounded by superheroes and supervillains and big fights and disasters and all the things that go along with living in the world today.
It's going to be a really, really exciting book, a really subversive take on what superheroes can be. And, you know, having Derek Robertson involved is certainly another huge component for us. Warren, I know Derek was someone that you worked with years ago. You know, who did you have to kill to bring him to Valiant to draw this book?
It's mostly blackmail, just lots and lots of black. Save your emails. No, Derek's great. Derek's great. He's a super talented artist, exceptional designer, exceptional draftsman. And when he began working at Valiant a couple of months ago, and we began doing some covers together. We both really enjoyed working together. The process was a lot of fun. The work he was doing for us was just absolutely extraordinary. And you know, when we began to, you know, when Rafer's story was really coming into focus, and you know, a lot of it's really about the democratization of powers, and you know, psi-ots in our universe are characters who can't self-activate. You don't automatically gain powers. You have the potential for powers, but they have to be activated. So, you know, when Rafer's pitch started coming into focus, we began to talk about, you know, what the consequences of this would be, you know, what the repercussions would this be of possibly democratizing powers. We began to really look at some artists, and, you know, Derek's name just immediately went to the top of the list. I mean, just an extraordinary talent, and, you know, we couldn't be happier to have him here.
Cool. So Harbinger Renegades #1 coming in November. One final question for each of you gentlemen. Who is your favorite Renegade?
It's
Torque, isn't it, Warren?
It's a tough question.
With that hat, it's definitely Torque.
My favorite Renegade is probably Chris. because she essentially controls a god but has no powers. And I think that dynamic's absolutely fascinating. And where we're going to find her in this story is going to be sort of someone who's really been through the mill for the past few years, is absolutely shell-shocked, and is just trying to live a quiet life. But the repercussions of her actions are so profound that eventually she's going to have no choice but to face them. And I think that's really something fascinating as a character dynamic. And as Rafer's done masterfully with Archer and Armstrong to date, along with Dave LaFuente, is, we're going to make sure that this is accessible and a clean entry point for all new readers. That's really going to be one of the keys. So while the story is going to be informed by the events in the Valiant universe that have come before, it's not going to be a required reading.
Awesome.
Pete, easily Pete. Pete is, I think, for me, the most complex character in comic books. He's got the best superpower in the world. He also unlocks a storytelling that is just epic in scope. What do you call it? You call this book Jack Kirby...
Oh, Jack Kirby's Train Spotting.
Jack Kirby's Train Spotting. That's what Pete is. He's this horribly, morally ambiguous, complex character that is layered and nuanced, but somehow is always in space battles and on the rings of Saturn, and he's got psi-lord powers, and you get to tap into Akira, and he's got these amazing powers. So easily, Pete, my favorite renegade.
Rafer.
For me, it's always got to be, and it's going to sound like a cop-out, but it's got to be the character that I'm at the very moment writing that has to be my favorite, because they're all absolutely, in my mind, real people. So in terms of like choosing between their children, I really can't. It's that person right there at the moment.
Man,
but
Warren
also,
and I did it, so I think you have to do it.
It's
That's just not cool.
Choose carefully, dude. Choose
well,
carefully.
Also, it's also Pete.
Did I steal yours?
Yeah, thought I'd do the cop-out.
Very
So
cool.
hoping I would.
Yeah, because basically for those exact reasons, because he's just so out of his mind so often, but also so like a he's just a big drug addicted bomb. It's just crazy. It's awesome.
Yeah, this is going to be an absolutely nutso book. Super excited for it. Harbinger Renegades coming in November. Let's have a big round of applause for Mr. Rafer Roberts. And so we have one final book to tell you about coming in December of 2016. The final title of the lineup of The Future of Valiant. Do we have any Ninjak fans in the house? Yeah! Ninjak fans? Any Rye fans? Divinity fans? Any Divinity fans? How about Matt Kint fans? Yeah? Give it up for Mr. Matt Kint.
I was clapping the hardest for Ninjak back there. Harder than all of you guys.
So, Matt, you've worked on many of Valiant's biggest characters. Right now, you have both 4001 AD on the stands and Divinity 2, which next issue number 2 will be out next week. What are you working on in December?
December, I'm working on something called Divinity 3. That's what we're announcing, right? Okay, I didn't mess it up. Thanks.
But that's not the full name. What's the full name? What's the subtitle?
Stalinverse.
That's right, Divinity 3 Stalin.
I don't know. It's almost self-explanatory, but
Thank you for coming, guys.
Good night. Good night. Drive safely.
I will still explain it. That was my pitch. Stalinverse. Get it? No, it starts out though. First page, first issue. Ninjak's Colin, his alter ego, goes into the store, buys a newspaper, and he's in London, and he's using rubles to pay for it. And then you're like, what the heck? And then we pan out and we see the entire universe is taken over by the Russians. So we're going to see Russian versions of every character in the Valiant universe. We're going to get like a Russian Shadow Man, where he's got his sickle, but then he's got a hammer on the other end of it. So it's like there's going to be a Bloodshot, who's sort of he's a KGB operative, and he's sent all over the world to take care of problems. And he's also like the keeper of the internet, so he's able to redact anything that the Russians don't want getting out. So he plays a part. Who else is in there?
XO, you've got XO in there?
Yeah, XO. You can see him right there. He's lifting up a tank, and he's gonna be scary. And then look at all those Bloodshots. Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun, and that was one of the things. It sort of grew organically out of what the stories were, Divinity 1 and 2, and this was sort of a natural progression from that, and I was hoping to do that in this book, and then I was also hoping to just for a month wreck the entire Valiant universe with Russian stuff. So, Mike, the thing I'm most excited about, I was at dinner with Warren last night. I was like, I want all the covers to be in rubles. I want people to pay rubles for these issues when they come out. Warren's like,
You literally have to go to a currency exchange to buy this book.
Warren's like, I don't know, I'll look into it. I don't know if we can do that.
Good job, Warren.
Thanks, pal.
So obviously Divinity 2 is still ongoing. We can't get into too much about how or why this change happens. But, going back to the beginning, what was the original genesis of your idea for Divinity, and, who is the character of Abram Adams, and what has he brought to the Valiant universe as a whole?
Yeah, I think from the beginning, other than, I've told this story before, but Warren called me up and he's like, I got a story idea. And I was like, what is it? He's like, Divinity. I was like, okay, what's the story idea? He's like, that's it, Divinity. I was like, well, what's the story idea? He was like, that's all I got. So I was on a car trip, and on the way back, I started thinking about it, and I got the idea for Divinity, what it ended up being. But I think originally I was writing Unity at the time, and it's a super team, and I was having trouble. I'm like, who does Unity fight? We have all the most powerful heroes. Who do they fight against? What? You know what I mean? There's only so many. They're not going to stop bank robberies. There's only so many terrorists they can beat up. Who's worthy of this super team? And I think Divinity, the first series, sort of came out of that, me trying to find a character that was powerful enough to stand up to them. And then that's kind of where his power set came from, which is basically he can do anything. There's nothing more powerful than a character that can do all the things, But then as a writer, then it became kind of fun to figure out, well, how is he limited? I didn't want to have kryptonite or some stupid fake thing that's it makes him weak. It had to be something that made sense with his character. So to me, he's always been limited by his personality and his guilt over losing his family and everything that happened in that first arc. But yeah, and I think we set up the Divinity 2 and 3 in that first arc, because he goes out there by himself, you think, and then one of the reveals in that first series, spoiler if you haven't read it, but there were 2 other cosmonauts that went out there with him. And originally, I think my first draft of that, I was like, oh, won't that be sad and horrible that he left these people there? But then I felt sad and horrible that I had left them there, And so I was like, well, I think they would come back, and then what are they going to come back as? What will they come back like? Because Divinity is definitely, his powers manifest based on his personality. Well, these other 2 characters got left out there, and I think they'd be a little bit more pissed than he was because they got left. So they come back, they're not quite as happy as he. Well, he wasn't really happy either, but they're even angrier, and even more upset. So and that sort of spins the conflict that's going to be in 2 and 3.
Very cool. And so the interesting thing to me is that Divinity 1, for being a giant cosmic sci-fi story, a true epic, was a very self-contained story and a really beautiful one at that. Divinity 2 has escalated things even further, and by the time we get to Divinity 3, we're really going to get kind of an event-level storyline for the Valiant universe this coming winter. I know we can't give away too much at this point, but what can you tease out about the kind of impact that the Stalinverse is going to have?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it has a line-wide impact. I would love to ruin every Writers' Month, and make everything Russian, So we'll see if that happens. But I do. I want it to be. I don't really like those stories where it's it's like a dream or it's like an alternate reality or anything. I want this to be real. It's really happening, and there's gonna be memories of it having happened, and it's not gonna be a thing where it just resets and everything's okay again. It's gonna have a real impact, and we'll see. I want to do it in a way that doesn't make everybody else, all the other creators, mad at me, but something they'd be excited to be a part of.
Very cool. Dinesh, Warren, I know that we've been having a blast thinking up what the Stalinverse is going to look like, potential outlooks for it in the Valiant offices. What are you guys excited for? Where Divinity's going into this winter?
This is a whole world that we're creating. I mean, Matt's big brain is going to be. I mean, you can hear already from what he's planning with Bloodshot and Extra Man of War and Ninjak. I mean, just wait to hear what he's got planned for Harada. This is a whole universe that he's building that we've been working on for a long time, and and to be able to tap into the iconography of the Soviet Union and to build on what's come. And it's difficult to answer this without spoiling Divinity 2, but to build on what comes out of Divinity 2 is going to be really exciting. And we've got massive plans for how to unravel this story. We're not going to do it in the same way we've done Divinity 1 and 2. There's something that we've got that we're really proud of that's really cheeky. That is going to cause a lot of controversy, but I think make a lot of people really happy too. So stay tuned for those details.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about Divinity 2 that's happening right now is the second astronaut's named Mishka, who we call Little Mouse. And whereas Abram Adams, who was the first astronaut, the basic concept of the series, that anyone's not familiar with, is that while the Americans were trying to land on the moon, the Soviet Union decided to try to get to the edge of the galaxy. And 3 astronauts encountered something called the unknown, and it radically changed them. So Abram Adams is the first one, and as Matt was mentioning, one of my favorite things about it is basically they use psychology as a way to contain him. But the second astronaut, named Mishka, as we'll discover in the second series, is just a straight hardcore Marxist. She wants none of it. So for her to return back to Earth and to see the Soviet Union have turned into Russia, you know, they're now going to unleash what is just an extraordinary superweapon in an attempt to regain power and to become the lone superpower in the world. And that kind of dynamic, I think, is what's made the second series so much fun, and it will leak ultimately into the third series as well. And just a quick shout out to Trevor Hairsine, who's just done 6 of the most remarkable issues in a row of comic book work that I've ever seen, along with Ryan Wynn and David Barron. I mean, these books are just absolutely gorgeous. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. Trev is just doing just the most masterful job of storytelling that I've ever seen. It's from him. It's just absolutely fantastic work.
Yeah, I'll back that up too. Every time pages come in, I'm like, please, are you guys having fun? Is everything okay? Like, if there's anything I can do. Because I swear every script, there'll be one page where I'm like, I don't think this has been done in comics before, but let's try to do this thing, you know, and then he does it, you know. So it's really good.
Awesome. Matt, any final thoughts on Divinity 3 Stalinverse?
It's going to be amazing.
Awesome. Maybe a round of applause, everyone. Come on. So that is the slate that we have for you. This is the future of Valiant, beginning in July with Faith, going all the way through December with Divinity 3 Stalinverse. Thank you so much to our incredible audience here in the theater. Big round of applause for yourselves. Thank you so much to everyone watching at home on YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope. I would actually love, and before we break, I'd love to bring up all of our guests up here on stage and get a big round of applause for everyone. Guys, come on up. Big round of applause, guys. Thank you guys so much. Everyone that's here, please join us at the bar afterwards for some cocktails and refreshments. What? What? What?
The bar's behind you.
Oh,
bar's
I'm sorry.
behind
The bar's
us.
behind me. That's fine. All right. That's Valiant Summit
Thanks, guys.
2016.
Thank you, guys.
everybody.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, guys? Let me get my audio working. I think that works. Yeah, maybe a little down. Okay. Hey, what's up, everybody? So thank you guys for tuning in to the Valiant Summit. Really sorry about the internet issues. There's absolutely nothing we could do about it. We tested everything beforehand. We tried. We could get up to like 2,000 megabytes or 2,000 kilobytes per second was the highest we could get it up to, running a hardwire directly from the router. Those are speeds very low and hard to deal with, and that was obviously not stable, and so we apologize. We did the best we could. Sorry about that. We were going to try to do some live commentary and sit and talk about all the news you guys heard and everything like that. But because the internet is so bad and it would probably just lead to a ton of people really upset like there were during that, I prefer not to throw myself into the fire when at all possible. So be active in the chat, guys, for a Valiant giveaway. So I want to see everyone active in the chat, and we're going to do this giveaway. Open to anyone.
Could you unplug me in here?
Oh no. Oh no. There you go, you're good? Yeah. Alright. Alright guys, so just be active in the chat. You can say anything. Let us know what Valiant book you're excited about for this year. I'm really excited about Harbinger Renegades, Divinity anything. So good. So good. Alright, I see the actives are coming in. You guys are getting set.
About the follow-up thing real fast at the Twitch, at their offices?
Yeah.
We're just doing a podcast at their office in 2 hours. Also
Yeah, come on. Yeah, come on.
Okay. I don't want to jump on your stream.
No, please do. This is so awkward when our internet, everyone's just mad at me.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't him, guys. I couldn't even stay in the chat to chat with you the whole time. I'm the comic historian who was in the chat. I run a YouTube channel. And we also do a comic book podcast every Tuesday, which is going to go live from the Valiant offices because we're hoping they have better internet.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, so we're going to go to the offices in about 2 hours. We're going to talk about everything that happened, so if you missed it.
Frozen Zach face, buffering.
But yeah, we're going to talk about everything that happened here so you guys can get caught up. We're going to talk with some of the creators, and we're also going to do another giveaway of a bunch of Valiant books. That'll be on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Eligible Monster. And if you follow Valiant Comics Twitter, you'll know exactly when that goes live.
Boom.
Nice.
Cunning 28 is the winner.
Yeah, we'll have there in a minute. Congratulations, Cunning 28.
Congratulations, guys. So that's going to be it. Stick around in 45 minutes on our channel. We have Rabbit Stew coming up with Malika and Claudia hosting today. I will be back tomorrow in Seattle.